Chapter 1, The Dinner Disaster. Isabel Trent had rehearsed this moment in her head for weeks. She'd imagined the drive to her father's house, the warm greeting at the door, the casual laughter over dinner. In every version, things were simple because that's what her father liked. Simple, predictable, no drama. But life, Isabel thought grimly as she sat in the passenger seat of Ben Jameson's car, had a wicked sense of humor. Ben glanced at her as they turned onto the quiet street lined with maple trees. "You okay? You've been chewing your lip for the last 10 minutes. Isabel forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just, my dad's a little unconventional." Ben grinned, easy and confident. "Unconventional I can handle. I've met people who collect taxidermy squirrels." She laughed despite herself. "That's oddly specific." "College roommate," Ben said, pulling into the driveway. "Trust me, nothing can surprise me." Isabel wasn't so sure. Jasper Trent wasn't dangerous or unkind, just eccentric in ways that defied polite dinner conversation. His world revolved around latex, fake blood, and animatronic limbs. He was a special effects artist who lived for horror, and Isabel had grown up with severed heads in the fridge and skeletons in the garage. It was normal to her. To Ben, maybe not. She took a deep breath as Ben killed the engine. "Okay, just keep an open mind." "Always," Ben said, smiling as he climbed out. He looked good tonight. Dark jeans, a crisp button-down, that easy charm that had drawn her in from the start. They'd been dating for 3 months, and so far, everything had been smooth sailing. No drama, no games. Which was why Isabel had hesitated before introducing him to Jasper. Her father was a variable. They walked up the path together, Isabel's heels clicking softly against the stone. The porch light glowed warmly, but something felt off. The front door was ajar, just enough to show a sliver of darkness inside. Ben stopped short. "Isabel." She blinked. "What?" "The door." His voice dropped, tense. "It's open." "Oh." Isabel frowned. "That's weird." Ben stepped in front of her instinctively, his shoulders squared. "Stay behind me." "Ben," she began, but he was already moving, slow and cautious. His hand hovered near his pocket like he was ready to dial 911. Isabel opened her mouth to explain, because really, this was probably nothing. But then she closed it. If Jasper had set something up, it would be better to let it play out. Explaining would ruin the surprise, and her father hated that. Ben pushed the door open, and Isabel's breath caught. The living room looked like a crime scene, furniture overturned, a lamp shattered on the floor. And in the center of it all, Jasper Trent lay face down in a pool of blood, his arms sprawled at unnatural angles. Ben froze. "Oh my God." Isabel bit her lip. "Ben, stay back," he hissed, his voice sharp with panic. He stepped forward, scanning the room like a man in a thriller. "Isabel, call 911. Now." "Ben, wait." He was already pulling out his phone, muttering, "Jesus Christ, there's so much blood." And then Jasper moved. He sat up with a suddenness that made Isabel jump, grinning like a maniac, his face streaked with crimson. "Gotcha." Ben's phone slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. He stared, wide-eyed, as Jasper wiped fake blood from his cheek, laughing so hard he wheezed. "Dad?" Isabel groaned, covering her face. "Seriously?" Jasper grinned at her, then at Ben, who looked like he'd seen a ghost. "What? Too much?" Ben opened his mouth, closed it, and then, quite gracefully, passed out cold. Chapter 2, Recovery and Awkward Introductions. Ben Jameson came to with the vague sensation of something cool against his forehead and the distant sound of laughter. For a moment, he thought he was back in college, waking up after a bad night of tequila shots. Then he opened his eyes and saw a ceiling fan spinning lazily above him, and the memory hit like a freight train. Blood, a body, Isabel's father. Ben bolted upright, too fast, and groaned as the room tilted. A firm hand pressed against his shoulder. "Easy there, champ," said a voice, deep and amused. "You took quite a dive." Ben blinked, trying to focus. The man crouched beside him was tall, broad-shouldered, with graying hair and a grin that belonged in a horror movie poster. His t-shirt read, "Blood is cheaper than therapy." Ben swallowed hard. "You're alive." The man chuckled. "Last I checked." He extended a hand. "Jasper Trent, Isabel's dad. And resident prankster, apparently." Ben stared at the hand like it might bite him. Then, feeling Isabel's eyes on him, warm, worried, and slightly mortified, he shook it. "Ben Jameson," he said hoarsely. "Boyfriend of Isabel." "Ah, the brave knight," Jasper said, hauling him to his feet with surprising strength, charging in to save the damsel. "I like that." Ben managed a weak smile. "I thought you were dead." "That was the idea." Jasper gestured toward the living room, which now looked less like a crime scene and more like a horror set mid-cleanup. The pool of blood was clearly fake, glossy under the light. A latex knife lay discarded on the coffee table. "Convincing, wasn't it?" Ben stared. "Convincing? I nearly called the cops." Jasper's grin widened. "Would have made for a great story." Isabel groaned from the doorway. Dad, seriously? He fainted. Jasper shrugged, utterly unapologetic. Better than screaming, right? Ben rubbed his temples, trying to process. He'd walked into plenty of awkward family dinners before, but this was a new category. You do this often? Only when I like someone, Jasper said cheerfully. Keeps things interesting. Ben blinked. You like me? Sure, Jasper said, heading toward the kitchen like nothing had happened. You didn't run. That's a good sign. Isabel shot Ben an apologetic look and followed her father. Ben trailed after them, still feeling like he'd stepped into an alternate universe. The kitchen smelled amazing. Garlic, herbs, something roasting in the oven. Normalcy at last. Jasper opened the fridge, which thankfully contained no severed heads tonight, and grabbed a pitcher of iced tea. So, Ben, he said, pouring 3 glasses. What do you do? Ben cleared his throat. I'm in marketing. Digital campaigns. Ah. Jasper handed him a glass. So you sell dreams. Ben hesitated. I guess you could say that. Jasper grinned. Me too. Except mine involve blood and screaming. Isabel groaned again. Dad. What? Jasper said innocently. It's true. Ben took a sip of tea, trying to steady himself. You're in special effects, right? Special effects artist, Jasper corrected, his tone proud. Movies, commercials, sometimes haunted houses. Horror's my specialty. Ben nodded slowly. That explains everything. Jasper laughed, a booming sound that filled the kitchen. You should have seen your face. Priceless. Ben managed a weak chuckle, though his heart was still racing. He glanced at Isabel, who looked torn between amusement and embarrassment. Her eyes met his, silently asking, Are you okay? He gave her a small smile. I'll survive. Probably. Dinner was surprisingly normal after that. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, Jasper telling stories about Hollywood sets and animatronic monsters. Ben listened, fascinated despite himself. The man was eccentric, sure, but passionate in a way that was hard not to respect. By the time dessert rolled around, apple pie, homemade, Ben's pulse had returned to something resembling normal. He even laughed when Jasper described the time a fake corpse accidentally ended up in a producer's car trunk. Still, as they said their goodbyes and stepped out into the cool night air, Ben exhaled like he'd just escaped a haunted house. Isabel slipped her hand into his. I'm so sorry, she said softly. I should have warned you. Ben squeezed her hand, a smile tugging at his lips. Next time, maybe mention that your dad moonlights as a horror villain. She laughed, relief flooding her face. You're not running? Running. Ben shook his head. Are you kidding? I think I just survived the ultimate boyfriend initiation. Isabel grinned, and for the first time that night, Ben felt like maybe, just maybe, he'd passed the test. Chapter 3, The Aftermath. The drive back to Isabel's apartment was quiet at first, the kind of silence that hummed with unspoken thoughts. Streetlights flickered across the windshield, painting Ben's face in alternating shadows and gold. Isabel kept sneaking glances at him, trying to gauge whether he was angry, traumatized, or just processing. Finally, Ben broke the silence with a low laugh. So, your dad? Isabel winced. Yeah, about that. Ben shook his head, still smiling faintly. I've had some interesting dinners in my life, but tonight, that's going in the Hall of Fame. She bit her lip. I should have warned you. Warned me. He glanced at her, eyes warm despite the teasing edge in his voice. What would you have said? By the way, my dad might fake his own murder for fun? Isabel groaned. Okay, fair point. Ben chuckled, then sobered slightly. Honestly, I thought someone had broken in. You should have seen my brain. Half of me was planning to tackle a burglar, the other half was wondering if I remembered CPR. She laughed, tension easing from her shoulders. You were very heroic. Heroic. He grinned. I fainted. You fainted after trying to call 911, Isabel said, nudging his arm. That counts. Ben's smile softened. He's something else. Isabel exhaled. He's passionate. About his work. About keeping life interesting. Sometimes too interesting. Ben nodded slowly. Special effects, right? That explains the blood. And the knife. And the everything. Yeah. Isabel stared out the window, watching the blur of city lights. He's been doing it for years. Horror movies, commercials, haunted houses. It's his thing. Ben was quiet for a moment, then said, You know, I get it. She turned to him, surprised. You do? Sure. He shrugged. It's art in its own way. Messy, creepy art, but still art. Isabel smiled, relief washing over her. Most people don't see it that way. Most people didn't just wake up on his living room floor, Ben said dryly, and she laughed again. By the time they reached her building, the tension had melted into something lighter, almost playful. Ben parked and turned to her, his expression earnest now. For the record, Isabel, tonight didn't scare me off. Her heart gave a little flip. Really? Really? He reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. If anything, I'm curious. About him. About you. Isabel felt warmth bloom in her chest. You're sure? Ben grinned. Positive. Though next time, maybe no fake corpses. She laughed, leaning in to kiss him softly. Deal. As they walked inside together, Isabel realized something she hadn't expected. Jasper's stunt, ridiculous, over the top and mortifying, hadn't driven Ben away. If anything, it had cracked something open. Ben wasn't just easygoing. He was resilient. And maybe, just maybe, he was exactly what she needed. Chapter 4: Jasper's redemption attempt. Isabel was halfway through her morning coffee when her phone buzzed with a text from her father. She glanced at the screen, expecting a casual "how's work?" or maybe a meme involving zombies. Instead, she read, Jasper Trent. Dinner was fun. Tell Ben I said sorry for the fainting thing. Also, invite him to the charity gala Saturday. It's horror-themed. He'll love it. Trust me. Isabel stared at the message, coffee forgotten. Horror-themed gala? Jasper's idea of fun usually involved fake blood and severed limbs. She could practically hear Ben's voice in her head. No fake corpses next time. Okay? And yet, Jasper was trying. In his own twisted way. She typed back, Dad, define horror-themed. The reply came instantly. Classy. Black tie. With a little flair. Nothing too crazy. Promise. Isabel snorted. Jasper's definition of nothing too crazy was probably a chainsaw centerpiece. Still, the fact that he wanted Ben there meant something. Maybe this was his version of an olive branch. That evening, Isabel brought it up over takeout. Ben was sprawled on her couch, chopsticks in hand, looking unfairly handsome in a t-shirt and jeans. She cleared her throat. So, my dad texted. Ben paused mid-bite. Should I be worried? Not exactly. She hesitated. He invited us to a charity gala this Saturday. Ben raised an eyebrow. A gala? That sounds normal. It's horror-themed, Isabel said quickly. Ben blinked. Horror-themed. Like, costumes. Not costumes, she said. Black tie. Just with a twist. Ben set down his chopsticks, amusement flickering in his eyes. Define twist, Isabel sighed. Probably props. Maybe some creepy decor. It's for a good cause. Raising money for children's hospitals. Ben leaned back, considering. So, fancy clothes, charity, and mild terror? Pretty much. He grinned. I'm in. She blinked. You are. Of course. He shrugged. If your dad's trying to make peace, I'm not going to say no. Besides. His smile turned mischievous. I kind of want to see what classy horror looks like. Isabel laughed, relief washing over her. You're braver than I thought. Braver. Ben smirked. I fainted last time. True, she teased. But you recovered well. Saturday arrived with the kind of winter chill that made Isabel grateful for her long velvet dress. Ben looked devastating in a tailored black suit, his tie perfectly knotted. When he showed up at her door, Isabel had to take a moment just to appreciate him. You clean up nice, she said, looping her arm through his. You too, he said, his gaze warm. Ready for the haunted gala? Don't call it that, Isabel muttered, though she couldn't help smiling. The venue was a downtown ballroom transformed into something out of a Gothic dream. Crystal chandeliers dripped with cobwebs, and elegant candelabras flickered with blood-red candles. A string quartet played haunting melodies in the corner, their instruments accented with skeletal carvings. Guests in tuxedos and gowns mingled beneath arches adorned with roses and, yes, tiny skulls. Ben whistled low. Okay, this is actually amazing. Isabel scanned the room, spotting her father near the stage. Jasper looked surprisingly dapper in a black tux, though his bow tie was patterned with tiny bats. When he saw them, his face lit up. Isabel. Ben. Jasper strode over, arms wide. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, Ben said smoothly, shaking his hand. This place is incredible. Jasper beamed. Right? Classy. But with personality. Isabel eyed the centerpiece. A crystal vase filled with black roses and what looked suspiciously like a severed hand clutching pearls. Personality, she echoed. Jasper ignored her tone. Drinks are at the bar. Auction starts in an hour. And oh, there's a photo booth with a coffin. You have to try it. Ben laughed. Sounds fun. Isabel groaned. Dad. What? Jasper grinned. It's for charity. As the night unfolded, Isabel found herself relaxing. The atmosphere was festive, the cause noble, and, shockingly, Ben was thriving. He chatted with Jasper about practical effects versus CGI, asked intelligent questions about latex molds, and even volunteered for a live demonstration involving fake wounds. Isabel watched as Jasper painted a gash across Ben's forearm, both men laughing like old friends. When Ben returned to her side, flexing his arm dramatically, Isabel shook her head. You're enjoying this way too much. Ben grinned. What can I say? Your dad's a genius. She blinked. You mean that? Absolutely. He glanced toward Jasper, who was now entertaining a group of donors with stories about animatronic zombies. He loves what he does. That's rare. Isabel felt a pang, of pride, of relief, of something deeper. Maybe this night wasn't just about Jasper redeeming himself. Maybe it was about her realizing that Ben could handle the messy, eccentric parts of her life without flinching. Well, without flinching too much. By the time they left, Isabel's cheeks hurt from smiling. Ben held her hand as they walked to the car, his voice low and teasing. So, coffin photo booth next time? She laughed. Don't push your luck. Ben squeezed her hand. Seriously, though, tonight was great. Isabel looked at him, her heart full. Yeah, she said softly. It really was. Chapter 5, The Charity Chaos. The gala had been going smoothly, almost suspiciously so, until Jasper clapped his hands and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment, we have a special live horror skit. Volunteers welcome." Isabel froze mid-sip of champagne. She knew that tone. That gleam in her father's "I meant trouble." Ben, oblivious, was laughing along with the crowd. "Sounds fun," he murmured. "Fun," Isabel hissed. "Ben, don't." Too late. Jasper's gaze locked on him like a hawk spotting prey. "Ben." Perfect timing. "Come on up." Ben blinked. "Me?" "Yes, you." Jasper grinned, already beckoning him toward the stage. "You've got the look, clean cut, unsuspecting. The audience will eat it up." Isabel groaned. "Dad." Ben shot her a reassuring smile. "It's fine. What's the worst that could happen?" Isabel opened her mouth to answer, but Jasper was already steering Ben toward the spotlight. The stage was set like a Victorian parlor gone wrong. Blood-spattered wallpaper, flickering candelabras, and a chaise lounge draped in what looked like a corpse's shroud. Jasper handed Ben a script, or rather, a single line scrawled on a napkin. "What's behind the curtain?" "That's it," Ben asked. "That's it," Jasper said cheerfully. "Just deliver it with terror. Oh, and don't mind the props." Ben eyed the curtain Jasper indicated. It bulged ominously, something twitching behind it. "Props. Animatronics," Jasper said, winking. "Mostly." Ben swallowed hard. "Mostly." Before he could ask more, the lights dimmed and eerie music swelled. Jasper boomed into the microphone. "Welcome to the last guest." The audience applauded. Isabel sat at the edge of her seat, heart pounding. She trusted her dad, mostly. But Jasper's idea of entertainment often blurred the line between fun and trauma. Ben stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tension in his shoulders. "What's behind the curtain?" The curtain flew open. A creature lunged. A grotesque figure with glowing eyes, jagged teeth, and limbs that moved with unnerving realism. The audience gasped. Isabel nearly screamed. Ben stumbled back, instinctively raising his arms like he was about to fight for his life. Then, in a move that stunned everyone, including Jasper, Ben grabbed a candlestick from the set and swung it like a baseball bat, knocking the creature flat. The ballroom erupted in laughter and applause. Jasper doubled over, wheezing. "Oh my God, that was beautiful." Ben stood frozen, candlestick in hand, breathing hard. "Was that supposed to happen?" "Absolutely not," Jasper said, still laughing. "But you, my boy, just turned horror into comedy gold." Ben blinked, then started laughing too. Big, helpless laughter that made Isabel's heart flip. He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't angry. He was enjoying himself. When he returned to Isabel's side, cheeks flushed and eyes bright, she shook her head. "You're insane." "Insane?" Ben grinned. "I just saved the gala. You just assaulted an animatronic." "Heroically," he said, and she laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. Later, as they posed for photos, Ben still sporting a fake gash Jasper had painted earlier, Isabel realized something important. Ben didn't just tolerate her father's eccentricity. He embraced it. He rolled with the chaos, turned fear into humor, and somehow made the night even better. And for the first time, Isabel thought, this might actually work. Chapter 6, Isabel's mother weighs in. Sunday morning found Isabel curled up on her couch with a blanket and a mug of tea, replaying the gala in her mind like a highlight reel. Ben swinging that candlestick. Jasper laughing so hard he nearly cried. The way Ben had handled everything, gracefully, humorously, without a hint of judgment. It had been perfect, or as perfect as a night involving animatronic monsters could be. Her phone buzzed, breaking the spell. She glanced at the screen and felt her stomach dip. "Mom." Isabel hesitated before answering. Her mother wasn't difficult exactly, just opinionated in ways that could feel like a tidal wave. And when it came to Isabel's love life, she had a knack for stirring doubts Isabel didn't even know she had. "Hi, Mom," Isabel said, trying for cheerful. "Isabel." Her mother's voice was warm, but brisk, like she was already halfway through a to-do list. "I was just thinking about you. How's work? How's life? How's that new boyfriend?" Isabel smiled faintly. "Ben's great." "Great how?" Her mother pressed. "Great like fun for now? Or great like you could marry him?" Isabel blinked. "Wow, jumping right in." "Well, you're 26, her mother said matter-of-factly. "You're not a child anymore. You need to think about these things." Isabel curled her toes under the blanket. "We've only been dating 3 months. 3 months is plenty of time to know if someone's serious," her mother countered. "Does he have ambition? Stability? A 5-year plan?" Isabel stared at the ceiling. Mom, I'm just saying, her mother continued undeterred. You watched me make a mistake, Isabel. I don't want you to do the same. Isabel's throat tightened. You mean the divorce? Yes, her mother said softly. I thought I was chasing freedom. Turns out I was chasing noise. And I lost something good because I listened to the wrong voices. Isabel closed her eyes, the old ache surfacing. She remembered the day her parents split, her mother packing boxes with a brittle smile, Jasper standing silent, calm in a way that had felt almost cruel. But Isabel understood now. It wasn't cruelty. It was acceptance. Jasper didn't fight because he believed in letting go when someone wanted out. I'm not you, Isabel said quietly. I know, her mother replied. But you're my daughter. And I want you to be sure. They talked a little longer, about work, about the weather, before Isabel hung up, her tea gone cold. She sat in silence, her mother's words looping in her head like an unwelcome soundtrack. Does he have ambition? Stability? A 5-year plan? Ben had all of those things, didn't he? He was smart, steady, kind. But then another question crept in, one her mother hadn't asked. Do you trust him with your heart? Isabel was still wrestling with that when Ben showed up later, carrying 2 coffees and a grin that could melt steel. Morning, he said, dropping a kiss on her forehead. Thought you could use caffeine. She smiled, taking the cup. You're psychic. Or just observant, he teased, settling beside her. You okay? You look thoughtful. Isabel hesitated. My mom called. Ah, Ben's brows lifted. How'd that go? She asked if you have a 5-year plan, Isabel said, half laughing, half cringing. Ben chuckled. Do I need to draft one? Only if it involves not fainting at family dinners, she teased, and he laughed harder. But later, when he pulled her close and kissed her slow and sweet, Isabel felt the question dissolve. Not because she had an answer, but because in that moment, she didn't need one. Chapter 7 Jasper and Ben bond. Sort of. Ben wasn't sure what to expect when Jasper texted him an invitation to the workshop. The message had been short, almost cryptic. Jasper Trent. Come by Saturday. Got something to show you. Bring clothes you don't mind ruining. Ben had stared at the screen for a full minute before replying. Sounds intriguing? Now, standing in front of Jasper's converted garage, Ben realized intriguing was an understatement. The space looked like a mad scientist's lair crossed with a horror film set. Shelves lined with jars of fake eyeballs and severed fingers. Buckets of crimson liquid labeled stage blood. A half-assembled animatronic zombie slumped in the corner like it was waiting for a cue. Jasper appeared from behind a workbench, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. Ben, you made it. Wouldn't miss it, Ben said, stepping inside carefully, like the floor might bite him. Wow, this is something. Beautiful, isn't it? Jasper gestured grandly. Chaos and creativity, all in one place. Ben chuckled. Definitely chaos. Jasper handed him a pair of gloves. You're helping me with a new project. Prosthetic wounds. Ever made a gash look real? Ben blinked. Can't say I have. First time for everything, Jasper said, already pulling out a tray of silicone molds. Come on. For the next hour, Ben found himself elbow deep in fake blood and latex, following Jasper's instructions as they crafted grotesque injuries that looked disturbingly authentic. At first, Ben was all thumbs, spilling pigment, smearing glue, but Jasper was patient, guiding him with easy humor. Not bad, Jasper said finally, inspecting Ben's handiwork. You've got an eye for detail. Ben grinned. Guess marketing taught me something. Jasper raised a brow. Marketing, huh? Selling dreams. Or illusions, Ben said, echoing Jasper's words from dinner. Not so different from what you do. Jasper chuckled. Fair point. They worked in companionable silence for a while, the hum of a small fan filling the gaps. Then Jasper spoke, his tone softer. You know, Isabel's mom used to hate this stuff. Ben glanced up. Really? Thought it was childish. Said I was wasting time on monsters instead of building a future. Jasper shrugged, his hands steady as he painted a wound. Maybe she was right, but I figured life's short. Why spend it doing something you hate? Ben nodded slowly. Makes sense. Jasper looked at him then, eyes sharp but kind. You like Isabel? Ben met his gaze without hesitation. I do. Enough to stick around when things get messy? Jasper asked. Because life does that. Gets messy. Ben thought of the gala, the prank, the laughter that followed. He smiled. Messy doesn't scare me. Jasper studied him for a beat, then grinned. Good answer. When Ben left later, his hands smelled faintly of latex and paint, and his heart felt unexpectedly light. He hadn't just survived Jasper's world. He'd stepped into it, and maybe even earned a sliver of respect. As he drove away, he texted Isabel, your dad's workshop is insane. Also, I think I made the perfect zombie wound. Her reply came with a laughing emoji and a heart. You're braver than I thought. Ben smiled, the words settling warm in his chest. Brave? Maybe. But for Isabel, he'd be braver still. Chapter 8 Isabel's Doubts. Isabel had been floating on a quiet cloud of happiness for weeks. Ben had met her father, survived him even, and things felt easy, natural. But happiness, Isabel knew, had a way of making you nervous. It was like walking across a glass bridge. Beautiful, exhilarating, and terrifying because you could see the drop beneath your feet. The crack appeared on a Thursday evening. She was leaving work late, juggling her laptop bag and a lukewarm coffee, when her phone buzzed with a notification. A photo. Ben, smiling with his arm around a woman Isabel didn't recognize. The caption read, "Great night with the team." Isabel stared at the screen, her stomach tightening. The woman was stunning. Sleek hair, perfect smile, leaning into Ben like they shared a secret. Isabel knew it was probably nothing. A work event. A harmless photo. But the seed of doubt sprouted anyway, curling through her thoughts like ivy. By the time Ben called an hour later, Isabel's voice was too bright, too careful. "Hey," he said warmly. "Just got home. How was your day?" "Fine," she said, forcing cheer. "Busy." "Mine too," Ben said. "We had a client dinner. Went well." Isabel hesitated. "I saw the photo." Ben paused. "Photo? On social," she said lightly. "You looked happy." There was a beat of silence. Then Ben laughed softly. "Isabel, that was Jenna. She's on my team. Married, 2 kids. We were celebrating landing a big account." "Oh." Isabel felt heat creep up her neck. "Right?" Ben's voice gentled. "You okay?" "I'm fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. Later, curled up on her couch, Isabel replayed the conversation, guilt gnawing at her. She wasn't jealous, not exactly. She trusted Ben. But her mother's words had been echoing all week. "Be sure. Don't make my mistake." And suddenly, Isabel wondered if she was sabotaging something good because she was afraid of being wrong. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Ben. "Can I come over?" She stared at the screen, heart thudding. Then typed, "Sure." When Ben arrived, he didn't waste time. He set down his jacket, crossed the room, and took her hands in his. "Talk to me," he said softly. "What's going on?" Isabel swallowed hard. "I don't know. I guess I panicked." "About Jenna?" His tone was calm, not accusing. "About everything," Isabel admitted. "My mom called. She said I need to be sure. And I keep wondering, what if I'm not?" Ben's thumb brushed her knuckles, steady and warm. "Isabel, I can't promise you certainty. No one can. But I can promise you this. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I want this. Us." Her throat tightened. "You make it sound so simple." "Maybe it is," Ben said, smiling faintly. "Life gets messy. People get scared. But if you want me, I'm yours. No horror props required." Isabel laughed through the lump in her throat, tears pricking her eyes. "You're ridiculous. And you love it?" he teased, pulling her into his arms. She did. God help her, she did. Chapter 9, the big reveal. The invitation came from Jasper in his usual blunt style. "Jasper Trent. Dinner at my place. Just you two. No pranks. Promise." Isabel had stared at the message for a long moment before showing it to Ben. He'd grinned and said, "If he promises, I believe him. Mostly." Now, sitting at Jasper's kitchen table with the smell of roasted vegetables and garlic in the air, Isabel felt a strange mix of anticipation and nerves. Her father was in a good mood, relaxed, almost reflective, and that alone was unusual. Jasper thrived on chaos, but tonight, there was a calmness about him that made Isabel wonder what he was planning. Ben sat across from her, looking perfectly at ease in a navy sweater, his smile warm as Jasper poured wine into their glasses. "To surviving horror galas," Jasper said, raising his glass. Ben chuckled. "And animatronic monsters." They clinked glasses, laughter softening the edges of the evening. For a while, conversation flowed easily. Work updates, Jasper's latest project, a haunted carnival for a film shoot, and Ben's story about a client who wanted a marketing campaign involving llamas. Isabel laughed so hard she nearly spilled her wine. But then Jasper leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting. "You know," he said slowly, "I wasn't always this comfortable with mess." Isabel blinked. "What do you mean?" Jasper swirled his wine, eyes distant. "When your mother left, I thought I'd failed. I kept asking myself what I could have done differently. Fought harder, changed more. But then I realized, when someone tells you they don't want you, there's no sense in fighting about it." Isabel felt her chest tighten. She'd heard fragments of this before, but never so plainly. "Dad." He smiled faintly. "I learned something then. Control is an illusion. You can't control people. You can't control life. You can only control how you show up and what you love." He gestured toward the workshop visible through the glass door. "For me, that's this. Creating monsters. Making art. Keeping things simple." Ben listened quietly, his gaze steady. "That's a powerful way to look at it." Jasper studied him. "You get that?" Ben nodded. "I do. My job's all about control, metrics, campaigns, outcomes. But the truth is, you can't predict everything. You just do your best and hope it matters." Jasper's mouth curved into a slow grin. "You're smarter than you look." Ben laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment." Jasper raised his glass again, his tone lighter now. To letting go, and holding on to what counts. They drank, and Isabel felt something shift inside her. For years, she'd carried the weight of her parents' divorce like a warning sign. Don't trust too much. Don't risk too much. But hearing her father speak with such clarity, such peace, made her wonder if she'd been looking at it all wrong. Maybe love wasn't about guarantees. Maybe it was about showing up, even when things got messy. And as Ben reached for her hand under the table, his fingers warm and sure, Isabel thought, maybe I'm ready to try. Chapter 10, A Perfectly Imperfect Ending. Isabel had spent the entire week planning this dinner like it was a diplomatic summit. 2 parents, 1 boyfriend, 1 apartment that suddenly felt too small for the weight of her hopes. She'd scrubbed every surface, lit candles, and even Googled neutral conversation starters, just in case things went sideways. Ben arrived first, carrying a bottle of wine and that easy smile that made Isabel's pulse settle. You look amazing, he said, kissing her cheek. Ready for the showdown? Don't call it that, Isabel muttered, though she couldn't help laughing. It's just dinner. Dinner with your dad and your mom, Ben said, hanging his coat. What could possibly go wrong? Isabel gave him a look. You've met my dad. Fair point, Ben said, grinning. The doorbell rang. Isabel's stomach flipped. She opened the door to find her mother standing there in a chic blazer, her hair perfectly styled, her smile bright but tight. Sweetheart, she said, kissing Isabel's cheek. You look lovely. Thanks, Mom. Isabel ushered her in, praying silently for peace. 5 minutes later, Jasper arrived, carrying a casserole dish and wearing a t-shirt under his blazer that read, Normal is overrated. Isabel groaned inwardly. Jasper, her mother said, her tone polite but cool. Still making statements, I see. Always, Jasper said cheerfully, setting down the dish. Keeps life interesting. Ben stepped in smoothly, offering wine and compliments like a seasoned diplomat. Isabel watched him with quiet awe. How he bridged the gap with humor. How he made her mother laugh and her father relax. For a moment, she thought, maybe this will actually work. Dinner started well enough. Conversation flowed, safe topics like movies and travel, until Jasper mentioned his latest project, a haunted carnival for a film shoot. A carnival? Isabel's mother raised a brow. Still chasing monsters? Not chasing, Jasper said easily. Creating. Her mother sighed. I just wonder if you ever think about stability. Stability's overrated, Jasper said, smiling. Life's short. Why spend it doing something you hate? Ben jumped in before Isabel could panic. I think that's admirable, he said. Doing what you love. It's rare. Jasper shot him a grin. See? The kid gets it. Her mother pursed her lips. Passion is fine, but relationships need more than that. Ben met her gaze calmly. I agree. They need trust. And showing up, even when things get messy. Isabel's breath caught. Her mother blinked, then nodded slowly, as if Ben had disarmed her with truth she couldn't argue. The rest of the evening unfolded in laughter and small chaos. Jasper accidentally spilling wine. Isabel's mother critiquing the playlist. Ben turning it all into a joke that had everyone smiling. By dessert, Isabel realized something profound. Perfection wasn't the goal. Connection was. And somehow, in this imperfect, unpredictable mix, they'd found it. As she walked Ben to the door later, her heart felt light. Thank you, she whispered. For what? He asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. For making tonight work. Ben smiled, his voice low and certain. Isabel, with you? I don't need perfect, just real. She kissed him then, soft, lingering, full of promise, and thought. This is it. Messy, funny, real, and mine. Chapter 11, The Apology. Isabel hadn't expected the evening to end like this. Her parents were still in her apartment after the dinner, lingering over coffee while Ben loaded the dishwasher. The air was calm, almost tender, when her mother set down her cup and turned to Jasper. Jasper, she said softly, and Isabel froze. There was something in her mother's voice she hadn't heard in years. Vulnerability. Jasper looked up, wary but polite. Yeah. Her mother's hands twisted in her lap. I owe you an apology. A real one. Isabel's breath caught. Jasper's brows lifted, but he said nothing. I was wrong, her mother continued, her voice trembling slightly. Leaving you, it was the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I was chasing freedom, but all I did was run from something good. From you. Jasper's jaw tightened. You've said that before. Not like this, she whispered. I didn't just hurt you. I hurt Isabel. I hurt myself. And I've spent years pretending I was fine when I wasn't. The room was silent except for the hum of the dishwasher. Isabel felt tears prick her eyes. Jasper leaned back slowly, studying her mother like she was a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. You're serious? He asked finally. Her mother nodded, eyes shining. More than I've ever been. Jasper exhaled, long and low. I never stopped loving you, he said quietly. But I'm not interested in being anyone's backup plan. Her mother's voice broke. You're not. You never were. Chapter 12, Old Wounds, New Truths. The next week was a strange dance of hope and hesitation. Isabel watched her parents navigate conversations with a care that felt almost fragile. Jasper wasn't cold, just cautious. He'd built a life on simplicity, on letting go of what he couldn't control. And now, here was the one thing he'd given up, asking for a second chance. One evening, Isabel found Jasper in his workshop, sanding a prop arm with meticulous focus. "You okay?" she asked gently. He shrugged. "Depends. On what?" "On whether she means it," Jasper said, setting down the sandpaper. "I can't do that again, Izzy. I can't go through loving someone who's halfway out the door." Isabel touched his arm. She sounded sincere. Jasper's eyes softened. "I want to believe that. God knows I do." Meanwhile, her mother was making her own quiet efforts. Texts to Jasper about old memories, invitations for coffee, even showing up at the charity foundation Jasper supported. Isabel saw the change. Less pride, more humility. It wasn't flashy. It was steady. And Jasper noticed. One night, he told Isabel, "She's different. Or maybe I'm different. Either way, I'm thinking." Chapter 13, A Second Chance. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, in Jasper's backyard where the winter sun cast long shadows over the grass. Isabel had invited both parents for a casual lunch, hoping for peace. Ben was there too, flipping burgers on the grill like a man born for diplomacy. After they ate, Jasper stood, hands in his pockets, and looked at her mother. "Walk with me." Her mother nodded, and they strolled to the far end of the yard, voices low but clear enough for Isabel to catch fragments. "I never stopped loving you," Jasper said again, his tone raw. "But I need to know. Are you here because you're lonely? Or because you want me?" Her mother's eyes filled. "I want you. Not the man I imagined. Not the life I thought I needed. You. The man who builds monsters and laughs at chaos. The man I should never have left." Jasper was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached for her hand, rough and warm. "I'm not sure about marriage again," he said honestly. "But if you're serious, really serious, I'll give you a second chance." Her mother's breath hitched. "I am." Jasper smiled then, slow and cautious, but real. "Then let's see where this goes." Isabel watched from the porch, Ben's arm around her shoulders, and felt something bloom in her chest. Hope, fragile but bright. Life wasn't perfect. It was messy, unpredictable, full of second chances and leaps of faith. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.